Welcome to a very special holiday edition of the Morning Meeting. I'm Mark with Dan and Sean. There are two kinds of people in the world. People who think ugly sweaters are funny and use space in their house to keep them, and people like me who just own really nice sweaters. So thank you for joining. I'll let you be the judge of who is whom. We have lots to talk about today, including the sweaters, and we want your participation, your critiques. Maybe we'll do a contest whose sweater is uglier or nicer. I don't know. My sweater, I think, is lovely, because I don't believe in ugly sweaters. Thank you for joining. As always, this program is about two things primarily: the future and the past. No, it's about what's happening today in the world of politics. I'll run through the day book and we'll do some analysis. It's also about peace, love, and understanding, the presumption of grace for all, an opportunity to have conversations. For instance, much on my mind is the dominant media is casting threats to primary people, Republicans who might vote against Trump nominees, as some sort of like thuggish whatever. Some of the ways those messages are being conveyed are thuggish, but this is a big, wide open democracy of political extravaganza we have. We'll talk about it. I don't see what the problem is of saying, if you don't vote the way we want you to vote, we'll run someone against you. I thought that was democracy, not thuggery, but we'll discuss it. Thank you for joining. If you're here on the two-way platform and you want to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. We love new people. So many first time, long time this week. Oh, music to my ears. So please raise your hand, become part of the conversation, no matter who you supported in the campaign or where you live or whether you own ugly sweaters or not. Gentlemen, good morning. Tell us a bit about your ugly sweaters. How long have you owned them? Where'd you get them? What's on them? Dan, you first.
Sure. I've owned this for about 20 hours. Went to Amazon when Sean made the suggestion.
So it's vintage.
You would be surprised at the plethora of options when you go to Amazon and type in ugly holiday sweater. There are a lot.
All right, 20 hours. So was it delivered in a day because you live in Manhattan?
Yes, it was, and hopefully I don't have hives by the end of the show.
Are you able to return it?
No, I'll keep it. This will come in handy.
Okay. What country was it? What country was it made in?
Oh boy, I'm gonna guess. Given its price, not domestically.
Okay, check the label. Maybe turn off your camera. Check the label. Sean, what about the provenance of your ugly sweater?
Yeah, this one has a pocket. It's very practical.
All right, before you go, Dan, can you tour us through yours?
Oh, let's see here. What's it? This is golf, and
it's like Scottish. It's like Scottish golfing Santa.
It's in honor of our president-elect. It's golf.
Yeah. All right, Sean. Sorry, Sean. Go back to your tour. I apologize for interrupting.
Well, I mean, I didn't know we were going there. Yeah. So I'm more of a utilitarian. Like I looked at this and I thought, how nice you have an ugly
sweater. How long have you owned it?
I got this at the Norfolk Navy Exchange a year or two ago. Yeah, this is a vintage.
So it's like a family. At this point, it's a family heirloom.
Yeah, after a year, if it doesn't disintegrate, then, like, or the fibers don't cause a massive rash that make you throw it out, then it's a keeper. But I love the utility of having a pocket. When you're at a party, you just take your drink and you can walk around. It serves a huge purpose.
Don't kill me, but what are those things? Are those candles? What are those things that look like jalapeno peppers and peppermint sticks?
Yeah, they're candles.
Candles, okay.
Yes, Santa. Look at that. See, my Santa's in shape, Dan. This is the MAGA Santa. Look at that.
Your Santa has guns.
Yeah, that's a bro Santa right there.
Yeah. Right. And what's going on with that yellow patch?
It just says, "Put your drink in my pocket." It advertises. It welcomes people in during the holiday season.
It's got utility and instructions. It's like something from IKEA. If you weren't here last night for Two-Way Tonight, we had a community member come on. I don't know if he's here again today. Mikey, who was for 20 years the top marksman. What did he say he was? He's the
sniper. He was the top sniper.
The top sniper in the Israeli military, and that was just for that and a variety of others. It made it a very bro-y episode, and I think your sweaters maybe contribute to that. So it's not pure bro-y here, but bro-y is in. Bro-y is part of the au courant conversation, so it's good that we're dabbling in bro-y. All right, today it is Brett. Bro-y is Brett. Bro-y is the new Brett, maybe. Thank you for joining. Please raise your hand if you want to get in the conversation. Oh, I failed to mention, don't write crap in the chat. Don't write crap in the chat. In either platform.
Holidays.
Happy holidays for those of you on YouTube and here on Two-Way. Joe Biden, 9 a.m. receives his daily intelligence briefing. Then 9:30, He participates in a virtual G7 meeting. I don't know if that's live or how that's going to be covered, but um, I look forward to seeing what comes out of that and what they discuss. I don't know much about it except it's on his schedule. The vice president will be in Washington, D.C., where she will receive briefings and conduct internal meetings with staff. These meetings, surprisingly, will be closed press. No known events for Donald Trump or J.D. Vance. Two fantastic events we learned about from our friends at C-SPAN. And I love C-SPAN, and I hope you do too. It's incredible. Okay. Both at noon. So you're going to have to make a choice or you're going to have to go to a second screen. Noon, bipartisan lawmakers judge the Army-Navy debate. Joe Manchin, Darrell Issa, Pat Ryan, and others judge students from the Naval Academy and the U.S. Military Academy at West Point as they debate which branch should receive additional funding. Sean, you know anything about this event?
I don't, but I served on the board of the U.S. Naval Academy, and Navy needs it more.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it seems like a weird thing to debate. With all due respect, the event sounds fantastic. I recommend that to you. It's on C-SPAN, cspan.org, and C-SPAN Now, which is a lot of C-SPAN
The
stuff.
Ocho.
The Ocho. Then, then also at noon, and I think Sean may, as much as Sean loves Army Navy, Sean, you may be drawn to this event. Bill Belichick on leadership on the eve of the Army Navy
Oh,
football
no, no, no,
game.
no. My choice is made. I'm going to lunch with Bill today, baby.
Oh, you're going to this event?
Yeah.
All right, wave to the C-SPAN cameras. Bill Belichick joins former Naval Academy Superintendent Sean Buck, not Sean Spicer, Sean Buck, and Medal of Honor recipients to discuss leadership. The National Medal of Honor Center for Leadership hosts this event. Where's the lunch, Sean?
It is at
Where are
the
you going?
Reagan building.
You gonna show us your Belichick stuff?
No, I'm going to show you something better.
Okay. Just pro tip for a lunch like that. Maybe you don't already know this. Eat first. Don't eat at the lunch. The food will be bad and it'll only distract you from being able to enjoy the event. Eat first. It's called a lunch, but don't treat it as a lunch. Always eat first. I've never eaten a bite of food at the White House Correspondents' Dinner except dessert. Although Karen Hughes, Bush White House Communications Director, taught me only have 2 bites of the dessert. You don't need to eat the whole thing. But when Karen turned her head, I ate the whole thing. But anyway, there's some advice. What do you got for us, Sean?
That was the Medal of Honor.
All right. So you're live at the Belichick event.
Yeah, I'll report out how that goes.
That would be UNC coach Bill Belichick. That's proper titles.
Yeah, maybe he brings Matt Patricia, one of the kids.
According to a text I just got, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say who it's from. We reported yesterday Pete Hegseth is going to be with Donald Trump at the Army-Navy game. So is Tulsi Gabbard. Maybe that's widely known, but someone in the know tells me they're both going.
From the conversations at the event where you and I were last night, I think everybody's going to the game. I mean,
not only is everybody going to the game,
but Mar-a-Lago's moved up.
Yeah, and I was at the train station last night coming back from D.C., and there's like signs all over the train station for this game. How many years has the game been played in D.C.?
No, this is it happened at FedEx like 10 years ago, so it's been moving around.
Ago.
It was Philadelphia forever.
Washington's got Army-Navy fever.
Yeah.
Quite something. All right.
Next year's
so that's the day book. All right. So first thing I want to discuss is something that occurred to me this morning, and this is either a genius insight or who cares. I'm thinking a lot, as I always do, about the asymmetrical advantages between the parties and the sides, and the transition. We've talked about this before. Peggy Noonan has a great combat it today. Like, there's never been a transition like this. Biden is so receded. He's either invisible or having problems for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part. And Trump and Team Trump are so active on immigration, on foreign policy. I mean, you have the borders are like going around the country, like starting the government. It's so interesting. And it reflects a lot of mojo on the part of Team Trump. One area that you saw during the campaign, and you're seeing now, and I assume you're going to see next year, is this category of people. Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon are 2 examples. Take Charlie Kirk. He hosts a daily show, a video podcast. He was involved in voter registration efforts that were derided, but it seems to have turned out to do quite well. He's both in regular touch with Republicans on the Hill and Team Trump, but he operates independent. So he can do stuff that they wouldn't do or couldn't do. He's like this entrepreneurial activist, promoter, lots of different things. So I think that's a in the modern era, that's a huge role. So my question for you, Dan, is does your party have people like that, or is this an asymmetrical advantage that's got to be solved for?
It's an asymmetrical advantage today in that, but 15, 20 years ago, the Democrats were the pioneers of outside groups, the collectively organizing soft money, funneling it through making long-term investments in infrastructure gains. And it really, played out when Barack Obama ran. A lot of those pieces had been put in place over the preceding decade. Look, if Trump lost, Charlie Kirk would be kind of moved aside, right? I mean, the people were really questioning, like, did this work? Now, it did. So his prominence has grown. But I think the Democratic Party, what it doesn't have is the investments that they have made have been in stuff like ground game with, Latino research and stuff like that. Now they need to invest in things like the podcast networks and personalities.
Dan, let me stop you. Let me stop you. You say they need to invest in.
Yep.
I think part of the power of Steve Bannon's empire, and again, it's not just a media empire, it's multifaceted, activist, is no one in quote unquote invested in it. The RNC didn't say, hey, get that Charlie Kirk guy on the phone, let's build something. This is being built organically by entrepreneurs about ideas and activism. So when you say they have to build it, I don't know.
That's not entirely true. I mean, there is outside money that looks to make investments in people and other things that are willing to take losses to grow audience, to build up. I mean, Sean and I were going back and forth this morning on text about some of the investigatory outfits around the country that go after one party or the other. They're funded by outside groups. The Democrats have about $1 billion that meets annually and makes investments in different entities. They just.
But why haven't? But I want to get Sean in.
Well, yeah, I mean that's it.
But $1 billion. Where's their Charlie Kirk?
Well, look. I again, 3 months ago when we were on here, we were all saying, "Is this going to be successful?"
No, but forget the voter registration piece. That's a piece, and
yeah, but everything. But it's all part of it, right?
But how about just? But how about just? No, but name the Democrat who's got a daily megaphone with a big audience, like Charlie Kirk does and Steve Bannon do, and there are others.
The New York Times.
Well, exactly.
I mean, that's it. Like we had MSNBC and all these
but here's the difference. But here's the difference. The New York Times isn't on the phone to Capitol Hill and to the Biden White House strategizing to say, hey, let's get Joni Ernst in line. They're not.
No,
I mean, yeah, I see your smile, but it's not the
right.
same thing. It's not the same thing. So what's the closest in the Democratic Party to somebody with a media megaphone, activist chops, communication? But again, it's also this independence piece, which is so key. Because Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, sometimes they do stuff without checking. Sometimes they do stuff that the Trump people don't even like.
Sure, look, we had it with MoveOn.org and all of those entities.
Still not the same. I'll tell you, you had it. First of all, you don't have it now. Second of all,
I agree.
Move On did not have a daily show, right? They didn't have that level of
when they were powerful 20 years ago, this stuff didn't exist, right? We need to modernize. I mean, that's the problem. A lot of our investments are dated and stale. And the world has evolved and Republicans jumped in front of us.
Sean, I want to hear you at length on this, but two things. One is Tony Blinken is in Baghdad as part of his post-Assad tour of trying to figure out what to do. I blew by your Medal of Honor. Could you revisit that a little bit? I know it appears that hosting this program is effortless, but sometimes I get distracted, so I apologize. Talk a little bit about that, please, and accept my apology.
That's my great-grandfather's William Spicer, Spanish-American War, U.S. Navy.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Let's do a whole episode on it.
And the reason, just the shameless plug, is that's what today's event is with Belichick.
Yeah,
it's a Medal of Honor luncheon. So
got it. Okay, Sean, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this, but just if you would start by confirming my sense, which is this is an underexplored area, and the Democrats really don't have anything close to this.
Yeah, the one thing that makes Bannon, but definitely Charlie. And let me just start with this. Back in '96, I managed my first campaign. I remember we had union support, the Republican that I was running. And it was like, you picked up the phone, you're like, we need 50 guys at this corner to do it. I mean, it was unreal. That's what Charlie has in the modern era now, which is I need 500 young guys to do this. But the difference that Charlie has, Bannon has a massive megaphone, but Charlie has the organizational piece. And number one, you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember not Charlie, but more like Steve. These guys don't always with you. They'll beat up on the RNC and on the team just as much as the outside groups if they don't think you're doing what they want. But the ability, like look at this lineup that he's got. It's called AmFest. It's in another week in Phoenix. Donald Trump is going.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
And by the way,
it's a joke how many big people are going to that thing.
But here's the kicker: people fight, like, you know, people normally get paid to go to events as speakers, whatever. There are people falling over themselves to get in front of his audience.
I got to read you. Keep going. I got to find the name.
No, Sorry.
Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck, Steve Bannon, Ben Shapiro, Mike Johnson, Donald Trump Jr., Ben Carson, Ted Cruz. I'm not reading everyone. Byron Donalds, Matt Gaetz, Danica Patrick. I mean, it goes on here, just endless. But you know, I think we all know that this is similar to what happened with talk radio in the 80s, which is because the liberals have the New York Times, they don't feel they need to have this stuff come up. But this piece of being, Alex Castellanos is producing the show by texting me throughout the program. And Alex points out correctly that Charlie Kirk and Bannon are outsiders, even though they have virtually unlimited capacity to communicate with Team Trump and Republicans on Capitol Hill. They're still outsiders. And that's a huge advantage. Because like somebody put in the chat, I think George Soros, he's not the same thing at all, but he's also not an outsider, right? Part of the strength of these entrepreneurial folks, and again, we keep talking about Bannon and Charlie Kirk, there's many others. Tucker would be in the same category, right? They're in the arena daily because of their programs.
But the difference is between, I'd say that Tucker and Bannon are more akin to Rush Limbaugh, right? They have this massive audience that is very beholden to them.
I hate to interrupt. They have that, but they're also involved. They're like, Joni Ernst is out of line. Let's move.
Right.
Rush didn't do that operationally. He just did it from the microphone. That's a big difference.
No, that's where I was going with this.
I mean,
Sorry. Dan, let Sean finish because I interrupted him.
I was just going to say, I think that back in the day, Rush, I mean, when Rush said something, everyone in the movement knew about it, right? They have taken that to an exponential level and operationalized it to say, okay, now do the following. Charlie's taken it to an even bigger level because he's got an army to mobilize. Get out the vote, knock on doors, go do this, buy these products. Like they've started to establish an alternative economy where people are buying things and supporting things. We have built on it. And I think to Dan's point, there's not the modern version of that. The Democrats, let's not kid ourselves. They've got corporate America, Hollywood, academia, the government. I mean, like it's not.
It's got Emily's List, the labor's union.
They do. Right, but again, here's what those groups lack. I hate to keep repeating myself, but I think this is so important. Emily's List does not have a daily show with a huge audience, number one.
No,
Number two,
I get it, Mark.
Daily List isn't talking to the Biden people every day, 1,000 texts saying, what are we going to do about this thing? And I'll tell you another difference, which Sean pointed out. Emily's List is not going to cross the Democrats.
Well, that's not true. I mean,
they will sometimes, but not in the same way. Not in the same way.
No, I mean, look, here we are. We spend all this time talking about how Democrats have these litmus tests and the outside groups put straitjackets on people. They do have look, Democrats lost. So our infrastructure needs to be re-examined because we thought labor, and like a month ago, we were talking about the vaunted Democratic ground game, right? That was labor and all these outside groups, the Democracy Alliance, billion-dollar investments in this stuff. And we thought our infrastructure was superior and was the edge. We were wrong. So we have to take a fresh look at how we spend money and everything. You're right, Mark. We don't have Charlie Cook. We don't have a Steve Bannon that is kind of a political celebrity, an influencer that, to Sean's point, Charlie Kirk has got people on the ground. When Democracy Alliance holds its semi-annual meetings, Democrats clamor for invites. It is the thing to get. Now, it's not public. It's not on Instagram.
And that's a big difference.
Oh, I hear you.
There's no grassroots. Democracy Alliance couldn't organize a one-car parade, as Bill Clinton would say.
Well,
it's all
look,
elites. It's all inside. It's all inside elites. They don't have grassroots Democracy Alliance. They do a lot of stuff. They don't. What's the
no,
Grassroots of
they
Democracy
fund
Alliance?
people who do
That's
I mean, look,
different.
Mark, I think
That's
the difference
different.
is there is infrastructure. It's just we need to modernize our infrastructure. But the Democratic Party doesn't lack, it lacks these capabilities today. I totally, you and I
But
texted
I'll
about
just
this in March.
but Dan, I'll just say again because the language you're using is I think misleading with all due respect. It's not like the RNC said, "Hey, I heard about this Steve Bannon guy and this Charlie Kirk guy and this
Yeah, no,
Tucker
I
Carlson guy.
get it.
Call him up. Let's hire him." This is organic. And it's so different. And again, look at Joni Ernst. Did the transition get Joni Ernst back in line? Yeah, they played a role. But I think who really got Joni Ernst back in line is the MAGA entrepreneurs.
But hold on a sec, Mark. I don't know which came first, like the chicken or the egg. The fact that Donald Trump, when he was running in 15, was the outsider and, he gave Bannon the audience. Like he gave him credibility. He has invested in Charlie Kirk himself. If Donald Trump turned on Charlie Kirk and had waved him off and whatever, he probably is influential. But like it comes from the top. They are independent. It is organic. The Trump energy is organic. The Trump movement is organic. And I think they're a part of that. But if they turned on Trump, I would be curious to see, if they would still have power if Donald Trump went after them, right?
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
they're not that
Yeah.
independent.
Sean, somebody put in the chat, again, I never read the chat, but I happen to know. Somebody put in the chat, Pod Save America. How is the full functionality of Pod Save America different than what we're talking about on the right? Because there are some similarities.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially, the funny thing is, I think if you look at the trajectory and put them over the top, I think Pod Save America went like this, but then it flattened and Charlie just kept going up. So they lacked the organizational aspect of it, right? So I think initially out of the gate, the first couple of years, they were very well versed, well known.
But here they were well, and they have a big audience. But here's what I think is different about them: is name anything they've ever changed in the real world.
Well, hold on a second. Let's see how all of this does once they have to govern. Like in 2 years, let's see if this machine is as together and
Totally
influential.
Agree. Totally agree.
Because look, it is very hard. Like the world happened on Joe Biden's watch. And when you own government, you can't make everybody happy. It is messy. It is a problem. Like when we look at some of these topics here, like governing is a you know what. And so for Donald Trump right now, he is the ultimate woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? You are the outsider. You're saying I would have done it better, et cetera. So everyone loves you. Everyone's hopes and dreams are still in front of them. But when the reality hits, let's see if this group is as together and in support of Donald Trump.
Sean, what are Donald Trump's 3 biggest political problems right now at a time when he's having a spectacularly good week politically? What are his 3 biggest problems? Take them off.
Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, and X, meaning not the platform. We'll see who that fill in the blank.
Yeah, Dan, do your list, and then I want to bring up one other thing. Who's on your list?
I would say his biggest problem is it's the economy versus the rest of his agenda, right? Immigration roundup is going to be messy. It could cause economic problems, world events, the tariff wars. At the end of the day, he got elected on fixing the economy.
Yeah, just another asymmetry, and it's connected, is Musk, Ramaswamy, Sachs, right? Okay, you talk about Soros, you talk about these other very prominent Democratic billionaires, multimillionaires. They're not moving to Wilmington. They're not dropping their time from their businesses and doing Doge. They're writing checks. They're going to conferences. The level of hours and association. George Soros isn't going to an event with Joe Biden and standing on the stage. You know what I'm saying? Like their billionaires right now, at least, are all in. They're not just writing checks. And by the way, now you have Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos genuflecting at Mar-a-Lago, writing $1 million checks and going to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring, and that's something else. Like that's different. That's another asymmetry, and it's both a symptom, it's both a manifestation, and a cause of Trump's role right now. Trump is on a roll, and these guys are like, yeah, I got to write $1 million check to get in the door at Mar-a-Lago. I don't. Do you remember conservative billionaires going to Wilmington during the Biden transition? I don't.
Well, wait a second. They are members of the incumbent party, and that would be Donald Trump right now. Like they kissed
but
the
they're
ring.
also they're also left wing.
Yeah, they're not though, Mark. They're totally hedged. Their government relations team.
Their government relations teams are hedged, but their employees and their corporate cultures are woke. I don't know. Bezos, I think, is more conservative personally, but their corporate cultures are woke.
Well,
they don't like Trump. They don't want Trump to be president.
Well, no, but hold on a second. So when Obama ran, Eric Schmidt was camped out in 2012 in that campaign headquarters.
Eric's an exception. Eric is an exception.
Well, but so hold on. So when somebody wins, the other side comes and tries to make amends. Rupert Murdoch sat down with David Plouffe and David Axelrod in February of 2009 because Fox wanted to get on the right side of it.
Here's the difference. You ever seen Eric Schmidt like at a rally with like a popular following, like
But
Eric?
But hold on,
not
Mark.
the same.
Why is Musk and everyone there a little bit? Trump is malleable. Trump is transactional. So they think we can really do some business because the guy's not going to get in our hair. The guy's going to outsource us. And the guy is just like, you go do you, and you tell me I'm great. You spend on me, like I'll reciprocate. That is not a traditional way of doing it. It may prove to be good. Let's see when things get bumpy if Elon Musk and everyone's still having the bromance. I mean, I think right now it's a honeymoon. Everyone can do their thing and no one's upset yet because they don't actually have to do anything. Sean, I don't know. I'm on the opposite of you today.
Sean, do you want to say anything else about this?
You know, sometimes I've
it must be the sweater.
Yeah, I've learned sometimes you just Sean.
Yeah. Okay. Go from election day to today. I want to talk about who are the Democratic all-stars, who are doing and saying things that are giving the party a sense of, we're going to figure this out. We have leadership. I'll give you my three, Ro Khanna, Richie Torres, and although I'm not as big a fan of him as some people are in terms of his positive impact on the party, Fetterman. Who else would you guys say are from your point of view helping out the party so far by, showing strength and ideas and engagement? Who else would you put on the list?
Those are the three that I mean, I'll leave Dan at. I gotta say I don't see any other real big voices out there saying here's what we got to do. Dan.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the first two you mentioned are going kind of more of the moderate tack, and that may be the ultimate, right answer. Fetterman's kind of that like hybrid in the middle of trying to appeal to the Bernie wing and the moderate wing. I think the issue for the party and who those all-stars will be, we don't have an agenda right now. Like we don't, if we had power, I don't know what we would do tomorrow. And I think the party has got to put the people who emerge will have their ear low to the ground and will pick up what is building in communities and states that we, the national, people don't really know about right now. And I think that will happen. But I think about Trump, like when he put that agenda out in 2015 against the wars, against trade, against immigrant, like everyone was like horrified, you can't do this. And it turned out to be a very winning set of messages. People will emerge with those messages here, and the world will give them opportunities, I think, to do it.
If you want to get in this conversation, please raise your hand. We're going to go to you in just a moment. Here's the good news, bad news, Dan Turrentine edition. Good news, I see some people on social media saying, who's the leading voice helping Democrats back out of the wilderness? Dan himself. Not a bad nominee. Number two, I'm going to read you this tweet from somebody I never heard of who has like 1,000 followers, which sometimes when I've said in the past, somebody, well, they only have 1,000 followers. Like, I'm not diminishing their voice. I'm just saying I never heard of them and they don't have a big following. But I'm not diminishing their voice because I'm reading their tweet. Kirk, meaning, what's his name? What's the guy's first name? Charlie Kirk has been at this issue activism for 12 years. Democrats are 12 years behind. You need the learning that comes from experience. He, meaning Charlie Kirk, made plenty of mistakes along the way, and that is the only reason he's as good as he is in 2024. Here's the little elbow at Dan. Dan doesn't understand what Democrats are trying to find. Again, I say respectfully, I think this person's certainly right about the first part. Charlie Kirk is a young guy, but he's been at this for a while. Same with Bannon. Same with Tucker. Like, they've had failures along the way. They've had missteps, whatever. But they right now, like, as I said before, people say that it's thuggery. It is thuggery to go on social media and say, Joni Ernst will come to your house and, attack your family and destroy you. That, no place for that in America. But to say, nice Senate seat you have there, it wouldn't be a shame if something happened to it. That's politics.
Totally.
That's just saying, look, if you're not going to vote for if you voted for Joe Biden's Secretary of Defense and now you're not going to vote for Donald Trump's, no, like somebody's going to run against you. So
Yeah. And
anyhow.
look, I want to be really clear, Mark. I totally agree with you that we don't have a Charlie Kirk or a Steve Bannon, that the world has changed and the way that they operate, we need to catch up and hopefully have whatever 2 or 3.0 is. My only point was we don't have no infrastructure. We don't have, we have pieces. Our pieces are just outdated and they clearly were not as effective as we thought. So we need to think anew.
Yep. Christy, welcome in. Trump supporter. Where are you calling us from today?
Oh, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm from Ocala, Florida. I can't believe I got chosen. I feel very grateful. Thank you.
Well, we're very grateful to you for joining. We'd love to know how you found Two-Way and what's on your mind.
I found Two-Way because of Mark and Sean. I'm MAGA, so Dan, I didn't find them because of you, but I actually have grown to really love you. I saw you on Tucker. Mark, you were amazing. I was riveted. I listened to the whole thing in one sitting. I loved it. And I've seen you on Megyn Kelly, who I love.
Thank you for that. What's on
Yeah.
your mind today?
So I think there's two things that have happened in the last 24 hours, and I don't understand why there's just not this unbelievable outrage nationally, internationally. And the first thing is, this came out from the Post Millennial, but Eric Adams had this press conference yesterday where he discussed his meeting with Tom Homan. And he talked about 500,000 missing children. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to get emotional. There are 500,000 missing children.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no excuse for this. And Republicans, Democrats alike, if I was Speaker of the House, we would be shutting it down. We would be having a much bigger conversation than the ones that are being had that I feel are so silly. They're so silly in comparison to those lives. And I'm a new mom, so this is part of probably why I'm like this. But I've always loved children and animals. So I want an answer. So that's my first question. I want someone to talk about this.
Yeah.
And my second thing is that God, Biden makes me insane. He just makes me insane. The night before Thanksgiving, they're saying that this pardon happened yesterday. It did not. It happened a couple weeks ago, the night before Thanksgiving. We just didn't know about it because it was the night before Thanksgiving. But he issued this pardon to a Chinese national who was found with 49,000 child porn images. And he's only served a year in prison, and he's completely absolved him of all his crimes. He waived everything, and now he's free. What is the justification for that? I think we deserve an answer to that one. There are others sure I have questions about. I'm not a big fan of a lot of them. Some of them I think are totally appropriate. What type of political leverage does China have on him that we felt like this was in the best interest of the country? And that's clearly what it says in the clemency letter. So those are my two things that I think we should be talking about, because I think it sends a much bigger message about what the priorities are with these two issues hanging out here. And I really, with all my heart, I am not a huge Republican fan. I can go on and on about the problems I have with the Republican Party, but if I have to choose, I'm 100% going MAGA and I'm going right. I just don't think it's the Republican Party anymore. I think that everything is changing with this party. But I believe so much of this on the Democratic Party. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But I've never seen this. So back to you.
Christy, thank you so much for that. And all three of us are parents, and really appreciate you raising it the way you did. It a lot of problems with the border not being shut down, but all the kids who've impacted. It's just.
And why are our representatives?
tragedy.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? And every single one of them stopping and just meeting, just stopping, going, okay, we all hate each other. We all got issues.
Yeah.
I don't like you. I don't like you. But can we just solve this one? Can we just find half these kids? Can we find?
Yeah. Well, let's have to find them all. Let's deal with that first. Sean, Dan, what's your view of what Christy said about kids and missing kids and caught up in this?
Yeah, I'm glad you raised this, because we talk about family separation, and yet the number of kids and women that are trafficked over the border, thrown into the amorphous to me, I'm with you. There are certain things that I feel like should be bipartisan. The defense of our country, the protection of our country, the kids. And yet, because it's Trump, we have to be against it. I just don't get why, if you are the farthest left person and you care about the environment and drugs and all that,
Yeah.
then you be like, hey, this is the reason. There's different reasons to come to the same conclusion, but we should all come to the same conclusion, right? Whether it's economic, security issues, human issues, safety issues. And this one just kind of does disgust me, because for all the talk about concern for families coming over the border and family separation and this and that, we have hundreds of thousands of children that are being trafficked, that are being brought in, and no one is looking at that and saying, yeah, that's one reason why we should stop this. So I agree with you. It's disgusting what's happening. When I went down probably 4 weeks ago to Arizona to meet with folks at the border, and they were talking about some of these other challenges that don't get the attention that the drug part of it does. It was amazing to hear this. So thank you for bringing it up. I do. And then I'll just, on the pardon stuff, do you want to wait, Mark, or you want to
no, go ahead. You can do that. Then Dan will do them both.
Look, presidents have the ability under the Constitution to do it. But I agree with you. I would like to, we've started to see some of the narratives and these 1,500 people come out. Some of these people convicted for things. Same thing where I'm like, if you're Joe Biden and you've talked about nobody being above the law, explain why a person that convicted of child porn, of convicted of peddling drugs. It's one thing to get caught and go to jail or to have a sentence for marijuana or something 25 years ago. I understand that, right? You make a mistake, you get caught up in something, you turn your life around, you're helping kids out, you're okay, whatever. But there are people that have not atoned for what they have done.
Amen.
When it comes to children. And there is no reason that we should be commuting a sentence or pardoning them. And I think that it's, unfortunately, to your comment, I don't see there being any accountability on this. And at least
No, I don't either.
Is expose it.
Dan, both issues.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, I don't think the Biden administration was just like, okay, children are missing. Like, I think it's horrifying. The border, to Mark's point, has been a mess under Biden's watch. It was a mess prior, but it got worse under Biden. The party has not wanted to talk about it because I think they thought if they gave an inch, they were going to lose a mile. That they just could not allow any conversation on this topic because it would be to their detriment and the playing field would move.
It would be.
Right, to Donald Trump. But that's, not a good excuse when you have hundreds of thousands potentially of children missing and who knows what has happened to them. So I think, I'm empathetic a little bit, but I'm also not, that the Biden administration just refused to deal with this when everyone saw the problem getting worse and worse. On the pardons, it is a bipartisan tradition of some of the pardons being political headaches. Every party has, anytime you do something to the scale that it has just been done, I mean, I'm not surprised names weren't, put out right away. Everyone is digging through them. President Trump had some very unique pardons when he left office, for reasons that did not seem to make a lot of sense. So the pardon, this has been causing headaches for both parties for years. I don't think anyone would defend, or I would need to hear a lot more before I would try to defend the pardon to that specific individual. But, it just causes headaches.
So the thing that I find fascinating about this, and we talked about it a couple days ago, I really think there was, and again, I'm not advocating, just to be clear, but if you put my hat on and say, if you're Joe Biden, what could you do in your final 30?
Amen.
Okay, I would say go out and find a bunch of people that were convicted of low-level drug offenses, possession when they were kids, things that tarnished their record, and wipe them clean. Okay, again, I'm not saying that that's what I would do. I'm saying if I were advising a Democrat, get some credit for key constituencies, especially among, Black men, where he's done a lot. He's touted himself as a legacy, right? But when you raise it to the level of 1,500 like they did, and you're going to see, I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff when you get to that number, 1,500. There's cracks in that just happens. But this is where the sloppy gets noticed, right? And Trump, we had our own issues, right? We didn't vet things. I mean, yeah, there you go, Dan. You're laughing.
Just as long as that's pointed out. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
But I mean, but this, when you move fast, things happen and mistakes happen. And this is again where I just go, this was an unforced error.
Yep.
The Biden team could have easily sat down and said, you know, Mr. President, you've tried to establish a legacy with the LGBTQ community, with the Black community. We're going to compile some
with the Chinese, you know, I'm sorry.
And this was again another blown opportunity for Biden to go out the door saying, I did this for the Black community, I did this for the LGBT, whatever. He could have picked 5 constituencies.
I did this for the children.
Sure. And now we're going to not focus, but we're going to go through the 1,500 and dig up some people that got incarcerated for some bad things. And there's the bad part of it, the policy, but then there's the political, which I think we're trying to focus on now.
Well, and I think from what I understand, a lot of those pardons were for reasons exactly that you just said. They had rehabilitated themselves, like laws have changed. And so under current circumstances, I think one of the other things that unfortunately happens for both parties when it comes to pardons is everyone puts their hand in the cookie jar. All your friends, members of Congress, everybody you know, because the power is absolute. You're leaving office or you're transitioning, you know, and everybody weighs in. Please, 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 please. And for a guy who's been around for 50, 60 years, there are a lot of IOUs out there. And somebody may have said, you're going to take a hit, but if it's 1 out of 1,500, everyone will move on, and you say, for you, I'll do it. And unfortunately, again, both parties have this problem when issuing pardons.
We need different people in Washington. Sorry.
Christy, so grateful to you for coming on and expressing what you did and the way you did it. How old's your baby and what's her name?
She's 6 months and her name is Everly Rose, and she's the most beautiful thing we'll ever see. She's perfect.
Yeah. Thank you. We're really grateful to you. Before you go, which sweater's uglier, Dan or Sean's? Uglier, not better.
Or Mark's. I mean, come on.
I kind of like Dan's, so I would probably say Sean's.
But
Sean, you're both
I probably wear Dan's.
Yeah.
You can vote for Mark's.
Yeah, you can vote for mine, but mine.
Oh, I can? Oh, well, no. I'll vote for you, Sean. You've got the ugliest one.
All right. Christy, thank you
for Sean's the winner.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate what you.
Sorry, I cut you off there a little bit. Thank you. All right. Paul, come on in. Tell folks where you are. What's on your mind, please? After you unmute. Got to unmute first, Paul.
Unmute, right?
Is that good? Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Dan, I'm sorry. I'm an Eagles fan here, but I'm calling from South Florida. Longtime educator, now transitioning to more like editing and writing. Sean, I want to go back to something from your show the other night, and you were talking to Megyn Kelly, and the issue that bothers me most is the concept of accountability. As a teacher, you need to hold people accountable, you need to hold students accountable, or they'll keep doing something again. And you were talking about, and this is something where I feel the president, as much as I appreciate the president, I get it. He's not exactly the most articulate on some things, but the concept that is driven is the concept of retribution. And I just want accountability, you know. And I go back to, 14 years when Speaker Pelosi sat there and used the term, we'll find out what's in the bill once you vote for it. And there's never a pushback by the media. And I think it's led Democrats to feel, I don't know how to put it, invincible, that they can say anything, do anything. I mean, for the first time in the history of the House, a select committee was minority representation was not allowed, and she chose her own. You have a majority leader in the Senate not hold a trial for an impeached cabinet officer, and it's like there's never pushback from the media, so they felt that they were invincible. And my point is, when are people held accountable? Because we try to take the high road, but if not, I feel like Democrats are just going to keep doing the same things over and over and over again.
Well, hold on.
And
In
I'll leave that
fairness,
out to you. And then I have one more real quick question for you all.
Let me ask you first
Sean?
question, Paul, just to clarify, you're a Harris supporter who watches Sean's show?
No. I'm a Trump supporter.
Okay, it says Harris
In
after
South
your
Florida.
name.
I'm an Eagles fan. So Dan,
Okay.
try to be.
Why does it say?
You're a
Why
great
does it say,
person.
Paul? Why does it say Harris after your name on your screen name?
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't know. It doesn't.
Okay.
It shouldn't.
right.
I've signed in. I don't know.
Okay.
It
All right.
shouldn't.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say on the select committee, that was Kevin McCarthy's decision to not participate. That was not Nancy Pelosi's.
Oh, no, okay.
Not participate.
That's not.
They said Jim Jordan couldn't be on there, but then
first time in the
he said, well, then
history
we're
of the
taking him
United
out, we're going
States
home.
that the
First
majority
time.
dictated who could be on a committee, who the minority could choose to serve, and that was un-American. I mean, this is the first time in the history of the United States that the majority dictated to the minority which members were available to serve. That is.
Well, they only said two could not serve. And even Trump said to McCarthy, "You're an idiot for walking away," because we had nobody on the. I mean, like, so it was not a case of like you guys cannot participate. Like
Okay.
that's just in fairness
you
here,
have the people you want.
you just can't have two.
Dan, it was unprecedented.
Yeah,
you
it
can
was.
Say, you can say
it
it was warranted in this case, perhaps, but it was unprecedented.
Yep. No, I hear you, but there was a difference between saying they could not participate at all and saying that was. I just wanted to make that.
I think. Look, Paul's broader question is, and Dan referenced this earlier in the show. We're going back and forth about the issue stemming from ProPublica falsely attacking Pete Hegseth for not being accepted to West Point. The lack of accountability is something that I hate. I get outraged every day when I read a story and then go, I don't know why I did. Like, what are my expectations in check? But it is, you're right. There's a level of, I can say anything on the right. And if I make some stupid comment, every Republican on the Hill is going to get asked, will you condemn this? Will you do this? Someone says something on the left I remember at the RNC, I called a reporter from the Washington Post at one point and I said, hey, Congressman so-and-so just said the following, da-da-da. And he goes, yeah, I haven't heard about it yet. I go, so wait, let me get this straight. Last week you called me because Timmy from Thomas Jefferson Middle School said some outrageous thing and his father voted Republican once. And today a senior member of Congress makes a comment and you have never heard it. There's a level of I agree with you. The lack of accountability is brazen.
And the president doesn't use that term when he's talking about things. When Kristen Welker pressed them on Meet the Press, he's talking about success being the final retribution. And I think that's noble. But if you take the high road and there's no concept that, like, he turns back to her, I wish he would say to her, if you found out somebody was undermining the democratic process, wouldn't you want to hold them accountable? And I just think that
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with you, Paul, but right, we go through this whole issue during COVID, and then Fauci comes out afterwards, and we say, "How did you come up with 6 feet?" And he was like, "I don't know. I just fixed it 5, 4, 6." And I'm like, "Wait a second. No one holds this guy accountable for what he. I mean, there are people who say things that affect our lives. They get away with it, and then I'm sure Dan can come up with a bunch of people on the right too, but there's a lack of accountability." That when these leaders say something, they get away with it. And it's usually on the left where there's no follow-up. I mean, they're going after Pete Hegseth because they called him a liar because he claimed in an interview that he was accepted at West Point, which is true. And yet Tim Walz patently lied over and over and over and over again. And it was an excuse. Oh, well, you know what? He thought about Tiananmen Square and he really was going to get an award. And he really did he patently lied. Hegseth told the truth. And the email from ProPublica is, why is he lying?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of views on ProPublica that would probably align with Sean, but I think there's two things. I think one, there are media outlets on the right that hold the left accountable. They're not mainstream New York Times, Washington Post, but there are plenty of outfits from the Daily Caller, Fox, and others that go after Democrats. I think where our party has a problem is we've changed the rules a lot and tried to say nothing to see here, right? So the committee thing of like, you can't have those two people on was different. It was unprecedented. nothing to see with Joe Biden. Now we're going to swap out Joe Biden and just put in Kamala Harris. The party in the last couple of years has done a lot of things where we've thought, okay, it's a small tweak and you shouldn't care about it.
Dan, hold on. Dan, sorry, hold on one second. I apologize. Sean needs to go. Sean, you need to go?
I do. I'll give you, I want to just, I'll let Dan wrap up. I got 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'm done.
Dan, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say we've lost the trust of a lot of voters with, driving out RFK voters would be another example by just running them out of the party. We have to rebuild. If we're going to say we're support institutions and we support the rule of law, it has to apply to you too. And I think we have a problem there.
Okay, Dan, thank you. Paul, thank you. Sean, go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. I'm going to boogie. I will see you Monday to report back on lunch with Belichick. And then Navy will win tomorrow. Real quick, 2 things for tonight. One, exclusive polling on what surrogate performed the best for both party on my show. And then secondly, I am putting in my newsletter, SeanSpicer.com, all of the ways that I am aware that you can get tickets to the inauguration. I can't get them for you. I will tell you who I know has them and how to get them. So if you are interested, instead of emailing me over and over again, just go to SeanSpicer.com. I'll put it in there. And again, don't kill the messenger. I've asked. I'm telling you how to get them. I can't get them for you.
Enjoy lunch. Enjoy the game. Thank you again for hosting me last night, which we'll talk about.
Oh yeah, it was nice to have you in my kitchen.
Yeah, we'll see that in a second. Sean, thank you. All right, just quickly, because we're going to end a little bit early, but I don't want to violate my rule of if you bring your kids, you always get to ask a question. And Erica has been so nice to us on X lately. I want to make sure.
Oh, Sean just left.
Get in. I know. So Erica, what's on your mind quickly, please? And then Kenneth.
Good morning. And my fellow Rhode Islander just left, and I just put this on for you guys. It's my Christmas sweater, believe. I just wanted to say, and we don't have enough time for this, but some of you may know that the accuser in the Duke lacrosse case came out in a video interview yesterday. And she said, I testified falsely against the lacrosse players by saying that they raped me when they didn't. I made up a story that wasn't true. I hope that they can forgive me. And putting aside, I mean, and I think that forgiveness is obviously a very important piece of this puzzle. So that's a separate piece. But this was 2006. And I was, at the time, I remember like literally nursing my firstborn son when this case was happening. And it scared me as a mother who ended up having, I have 3 sons. And when I think about how the media just betrayed, the truth, these boys, the coach, how the faculty at Duke betrayed them. And then I try to imagine if this story broke today, not only do I not feel like it would be covered any more fairly, I think it would be as bad or worse. And the reason that I bring that up is because the Biden administration, in terms of Title IX, many people don't realize, but the due process issues in colleges fall under Title IX. And the rules right now for that and what the Biden administration is looking to do, and even moderate senators like mine, Jack Reed, has signed off on this, is to essentially, roll back all due process for people on college campuses accused of sexual assault. So it's a topic that's for more, but I just wanted to bring that up and make sure that
it's a great topic. Thank you for raising it. I bet the Trump administration changes the Title IX rules would be my guess, at least to try. Erica, thank you for raising it, and you're right, we should talk more about it. Thank you. Kenneth? Briefly, because we're out of time. Thanks for bringing the kids. What's up?
I was hoping to ask Sean, but regarding this whole drone thing in New Jersey, I've heard a suspiciously little amount of it from the Trump camp, especially Elon. Elon chimes in on everything.
Yeah, I agree. There's something weird going on. I hope we'll talk about it next week, maybe. But there's something weird about it. You're right. Both sides are talking about it in a way that suggests if there isn't a conspiracy, they're acting like they want people to think there is. So thank you for raising it. And that's another thing we should talk more about. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
All right. So last night, for those of you who watched 2A tonight, I had a very special perch to host the show from. And let's show some of that.
Matters into your own hands. Weird stuff.
Joseph, thank you for joining again. Loved having you here. Please come back regularly. good anecdote to bro. Wait, what's that going on back there? It's a real life elf on the shelf. Sean Spicer. Let me take my mic off so
Sean,
I can bring you
what's
in.
up with this, man?
Hold on.
Was the door open?
Hold on.
In.
Everybody,
Good
see everybody at 9 a.m. tomorrow, right here.
Not here.
The morning
Not
meeting.
here.
Not here. I won't be here. All I can say is, like a lot of stuff you see on video and on TV, the setting of Sean's beautiful anchor position is not anything. If you saw the 360, you'd be surprised at what's in there. And I can't say more tonight, but we'll have more on that continuing story in the days and weeks ahead. Tonight, continuing my practice of not doing two-way tonight from home, I will be in one of the great New York institutions. Dan, you ever been to the Holiday Lights in Dyker Heights, Brooklyn?
I have not, but I love good holiday lights.
You wouldn't believe this. This neighborhood just goes insane. Go on Google Images, Dyker Heights, D-Y-K-E-R. I've never seen anything like it. It's just block after block of, I can't even, you'll see if you go on Google, they're just the most extravagant holiday lights you've ever seen.
That's
And
awesome.
they've been massive. So I'm going to try to do the show from Dyker Heights. If I don't show up, who knows what happened. But amongst those who will be joining us this evening, are Megan McCain, who often joins us on Fridays, which I enjoy, and Lindy Lee, a Democrat. So join us tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, normal time, not 5 p.m., not 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern Time, final show of the week. We will see you then, and Dan, Sean, and I will be back on Monday morning for another edition of the morning meeting. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. See you at 6.